This judge, for the first time ever I felt in my life, read my report and stuff and just critically thought about, like, well, how has it got to this stage? Like, why are you a prolific offender, Rae-Anne? Like, why are you back here? What's missing? I grew up in Birmingham, mainly Yardley. It's a deprived area, quite a lot of high unemployment, not much to do around there for young kids. Up until the age of 11, I had quite a normal family life. So my mum went to work, my dad went to work, we went to school, very stable. My mum was a very hands-on mum, always had us clean, fed, at school on time. My mum was diagnosed with manic psychosis, which is bipolar disorder. So we didn't actually know what had happened. She just started acting out of character. Sometimes I'd wake up and my mum was gone like she'd been gone all weekend. My dad had moved out at that point. My mum and dad had split up because of my mum's illness. So it felt like, what have I done wrong? Why does nobody want to be around me? How come everybody's abandoned me? And I remember being as young as 11, like going out onto the streets just to find friends. I was kind of lonely. I remember finding a group of lads at the top of the road, and I remember they used to refer to me as the 11-year-old girl. They've got to have been about 16, 17 at this time. It was strange, really, looking back. Especially having a daughter myself. If I was to see my 13-year-old daughter hanging around with 17, 18-year-old lads, I would be definitely questioning their intentions. And especially lads that you would call a gang, that are out committing crime, taking drugs, avoiding the police at any cost, sitting in bandos. That was pretty much the norm. About the age of 11, 12, I started smoking cannabis to escape my reality. But then it escalated. I mean, I was in my first nightclub at 13, and that's when I started taking other drugs, harder drugs, ecstasy, cocaine. So I'd smoke weed, cannabis in the daytime every day, and then over weekend I'd go and drink, take drugs, party. And that was just a way of coping. By the time I was 14, I was then out shoplifting, because obviously I needed to get clothes for myself, I needed food. And actually what started as just me robbing clothes for myself to clothe myself, it then became a career. People would say to me like, oh, where did you get that from? Can you get me one of them? And, you know, I'll pay you for it. So then obviously at a 13, 14-year-old girl, I'm thinking, oh, I can earn money from doing this. I'd then gone out and started robbing to order. It actually became an addiction, another escape for me. I was always fighting, whatever opportunity I got, I was always fighting lads, fighting girls older than me. Always had a pair of scissors on me or CS gas. So whenever like the lads got into a fight and that, if there was ever any girls there, I'd be the first one to like jump in. So I'm getting you before you get me. Do you know what I mean? That was the mentality. Fortunately, I never got hurt, and I never ended up really hurting anybody else either. I was angry at the world when I was a teenager. And then as I got older, I was angry with myself. Yeah, and that's where the self-abuse started even more. By the time I was 14, 15, obviously I was sexually active and I was involved in a lot of unhealthy relationships, toxic, violent, abusive relationship. I remember this man who was a lot older than me, in his 40s, 50s. He wasn't the only one. He started buying me things. He used to start by buying me perfume, handbags, and I kind of looked at him like a father figure. And yeah, I ended up in a sexual relationship with him at 14, 15. And it happened for years without anybody knowing. And he used to pick me up in an area and take me off to obviously sexually abuse me. But at the time I didn't see that as sexual abuse. I seen him as my boyfriend. Yes, it's called the boyfriend model of grooming. And that wasn't the only occasion. I'd had lads approach me, buying me weed, bags of weed, or buying me alcohol and driving round with me. So then obviously sexually abused me. It impacted my judgment on relationships in every way. Sexual relationships, friendships, unhealthy, toxic patterns of behaviour, PTSD, identity disorders, you could say, because I didn't know who I was. It was all of that mixture there that led me to think like, that's what led me to God in the end, because I just felt like, what's my purpose? Like, am I just there to like be abused? It was that age at 25 where the penny dropped and I realised, like, I can't continue living this life. Like, I just want to be normal. I'd got arrested. I knew this time, well, I thought, I'm going to jail this time. Like, there's so many times now that I've been given suspended sentences. So many opportunities that I've had at this point to change. You know, I've got a criminal record at like 18 convictions. My daughter's 5. Obviously her dad's in prison. Is she going to have 2 parents in jail, and what is my daughter going to go like? Is my daughter going to go into care? Am I going to lose my daughter? This judge, for the first time ever I felt in my life, actually read my report and stuff and just critically thought about, like, well, how has it got to this stage? Like, why are you a prolific offender, Rae-Anne? Like, why are you back here over? He says, I'm looking at your record and you're constantly turning back up at court. What's missing? The judge says to me, like, I'm going to give you one last chance. He sentenced me to 2 years. So when I heard, obviously, the 2 years in prison, I was like, oh, I'm going to jail. And he said, I'm going to suspend it out in the community, but you are required to go and get some education, go get your GCSEs, and attend a 60-day community order where I'd have to do like thinking skills and that sort of stuff. And at the time, obviously, I was like, I don't want to have to do this. I didn't realise that actually that was going to be the start of my new journey. And obviously to stop me from drinking and taking drugs, that's why I moved out into the countryside to kind of just start afresh. And that's where I started my degree. If I didn't move out of the area, I don't think I'd have been able to change my life the way I did. Because obviously these was my people, like I'd grown up with them. For me to just start saying, like, nah, you can't come in my house, I've got uni tomorrow and stuff, would have been really, really hard. So it was better for me to just get out the area and hope people forgot about me. So I'd started doing charity work at that point, working in prisons, working down London for charity. It's so fulfilling and so rewarding to know that I'm on the right side of the law and I'm helping young people, and I can still have nice holidays, I can still have a nice house, just not feel so crap about myself anymore. So I graduated from uni 2018. It was massive for me, yeah. I'm so glad I went and done it, and I think I will definitely continue with my education. Hopefully I'll go on to do my master's or a PhD. And I'm just enjoying working with young people and sharing some of my experiences with them and helping to guide them through their lives and help them make better decisions and, you know, make them think about the impacts and consequences of some of their choices that they make.
Good evening. A police manhunt is underway after a series of knife attacks in Birmingham city centre last night.
Back in the day, knife crime and gun violence was bad, but it wasn't as bad as what it is in this day and age. So far this year, 40 young people have lost their lives to knife crime. We are the second behind London for knife crime. It is so common for kids to be killing each other. It is. And what worries me is that society and communities are going to become desensitised to it and just becomes the norm. There isn't anybody that isn't impacted by knife crime. That is what these youngsters don't see. That there is going to be tons and tons of trauma, generations of it to come now, of families that are distraught through losing their kids to a knife. I know from my own experience, yeah, it's very rarely that someone gets out of bed of a morning, that decides they're going to kill someone. This is just a thoughtless act. They've got a knife on them to think that they're protecting themselves. They end up in an altercation, they end up using that knife, and then 2 people have lost their lives. That mother or father or parent has had to bury their son, and now another family have lost their son for 30 years in prison. And you've still got families and communities that are shattered, fractured because of knife crime. If you can run a gang, you can run a business. Do you know what I mean? You've got leadership qualities, man. If you can sell drugs, you can sell gold, you can become a jeweller. So I've got a heart for them kids that are out committing crime and stuff, do you know what I mean? I just want them to know that there is another way. You can make it. You know, if you want this nice big house and this nice car, go to work, man. Get your education. And then you'll get your mortgage. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing worse than thinking that you're going to get to the top through shotting drugs and selling drugs for the NCA and that, or Interpol or whoever to come along and just take that off you. Yeah, because they can. They'll just freeze it all, and you've wasted, 10 years of your life on road, probably having to survive using that, you know, carrying knives and guns to protect yourself from getting robbed, for then the police to come and take it off you anyway. I have a 13-year-old daughter. Everything I do is for her. The reason why I changed my life around was for you now, because she saved me, if you know what I mean. My daughter saved me from a lot. If I didn't have my daughter when I did, I don't know where. I'd probably be dead or something by now. I'd have just carried on spiralling. That's one thing I do explain to my daughter and other kids. That life that looks glamorous, there's a lot of trauma that's attached to that. Everything that glistens isn't always gold. Yeah, and it took me a lifetime journey to see that. I hope and pray that, obviously, God willing, that she goes on to, you know, want to do well at school and university, and, you know, perhaps want to go on to maybe help people like me.